you are gonna see some cool ass shit.
Yeah, you don't want 2 Flavor Flays.
Heart transplants, brain surgeries. I've seen it all.
Dude, that's fucking dope.
Walk up and just get it, whatever it is.
Yeah, brother.
I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but Josh is fucking killing me.
Guess what Navy SEALs do, motherfucker? They communicate and they're on the same fucking page.
Whoa.
Are you kidding me? There we go. That's wild. That's wild. I really messed that up, dude.
That's okay. It
Are
was
you
a
kidding
setting,
me?
See, you always say you need another setting before we start.
Such a
All
good
right, continue
intro,
though. That
dude.
was a good one.
You
I'm
kidding
with
me?
you.
We're gonna have to like voice over this. But
We'll
that's gonna
dub
be funny.
in some
Can we really
hilarious.
dub it? Can we do that? All
Yeah,
right,
put in
everybody,
some
we're
different
gonna
languages.
dub in the first 2 minutes of 10 minutes of this
I
one.
want you to fill mine with Spanish, and you can be
Um,
Chinese.
But
Yeah,
to catch everyone
¿Cómo
up,
estás?
to catch
Estoy bien, me llamo Kemper.
yeah, give me some time to get over mine, okay? But I want like the Telemundo. Yes, there we go.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want the deep voice. All right.
Okay,
Someone
okay,
else can
okay.
do an nasally voice.
dude. All right, so
Guys, that's gonna cost a lot of money.
to catch everyone up here, we were what were we talking about, Kemper? We were talking about God.
I was talking about how I went to work and I've been setting my intention and through prayer, and just clearing my mind and aligning myself. and asking God to not only give me more energy, but to make me of service to other people and to clear my mind so I can be present. You know, um, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And then I was gonna add on to that. Um, and I said, I think a lot of people can relate to this, but do you ever like backtrack to prayers you've said and you look at your life and how it's gone on like 3 months since then or whatever, and you're like, dude, like you might have gotten a new job, you might have started a new hobby, um, something, some big life event, and like you're kind of like, oh, so that's how that was supposed to play out, and like you kind of see how it was like planned out for you, and you're like, wow, you're like, well, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and I think that really kind of goes into like what I wanted to touch on in another area of my life. I didn't realize it was going to come up so soon,
Hey,
but
go for
goal,
it.
goal setting. You know,
Okay.
I was watching a video of Jim Rohn. It's a speech, and I'll have to find it later on so we
Yeah.
can like tag it or
Hey,
something.
just so you know, I
But
have a counter to goals after you finish.
okay, cool. Um, but no one ever really like talks about setting goals and how to do it, you know? And
Yeah.
he kind of broke it down into like short-term and long-term goals and how to think about your goals and interact with them. And he said you have to plan like an adult and believe like a child, you know? Like believe dream like a child, plan like an adult,
Yeah.
you know? And I it kind of goes hand in hand with like when you're really dreaming, like when you're really reaching for the stars in the beginning, like you have an air of like disbelief about it, almost like it seems so massive, like that it's almost like, damn, can that happen? And then as those little prayers, you know start
Yeah.
to get through, it brings in the necessity of prayer, and as
Yeah.
that starts to get through and things start to get answered and that confidence builds, you go, oh bro, there's no difference, to God. There's no difference in my ability to create this versus that.
Yeah. I,
Yeah.
um, my thing about goals, I don't think people should make them because goals are such a, how do I say it, like a big disappointment. Um, because everyone sets these big goals like, oh, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna be a doctor, I'm gonna be a lawyer, or hey, I'm gonna be a rich like YouTuber or whatever. But and yes, the point behind goals is good, but say you want to be a doctor by 30. You tell yourself, "Oh, I'm going to do this by 30." Well, what happens when you don't do that by 30? You're going to sit there and be like, "Dang, dude, like I didn't reach my goal." And then you're just going to want to give up on it.
I
So,
think
I don't
that's
I
why I
think
don't
know.
like
what
goals.
I think you're thinking about big goals. Those are aspirations. Those are life goals. But
Yeah. No,
if you
it's
think
goals
about
in a
goals in a
whole.
sense
My
of like,
examples
well
were
then
just
okay, well then we'll go into more detail about it. But those specific examples are big goals,
yeah.
right? Those are goals that can easily be discouraged just simply on the amount of work that you have to do. But if
Yeah.
you look at it and you say, all right, what makes a man feel happy? Purpose. What
Yep.
gives a man purpose? Goals.
Yep.
Something to achieve. If you do not have the
Yep.
drive or want to achieve anything, and you do not push yourself to achieve anything, then you're living a life that is going to eventually make you not happy with what's going on in your life.
Hmm.
Okay.
If you don't have a plan, even simple as like I want to go learn this new skill. Not even a big skill. Let's say I want to learn how to fucking speak a new language
Yeah.
in a very like easygoing way. Like I don't want to put on any stress on myself, but I want to
Mm.
learn how to speak Spanish,
Yeah.
right? Well, then you look up like, okay, how can I learn how to speak Spanish? What's your best way to learn? Okay, well, I kind of like self-taught, so I'm gonna look at apps or online classes.
Mm.
Babbel, perfect. It's a conversational way to learn. It teaches conversational language, right? Boom, you learn it. You take your time with it and you have fun and you enjoy yourself. But it's when you put the pressure and the need to have to achieve these things by a certain point when people start to get discouraged. So what you were saying is, in essence, is like if you're putting the pressure on yourself to achieve being a doctor by 30, it's going to feel a little bit more daunting, a little bit more of a tedious thing, and something that feels like you don't really have much of a choice and you're not going to want to do it. But if you give yourself the ability to have a little bit of like flexibility in your goal and how you do it and what you do with it, then you won't feel so pressured to fucking achieve it by a certain point. And at that point, now you got to start talking about like, okay, why do you want to achieve it by 30, right? Are you looking at all these other fucking doctors that achieved it by 24, right? Or by fucking 27? Or these super geniuses who are in college by 14? Are you like you're comparing yourself to people who aren't you? Like your situation is different. So why are you saying that you have to achieve this goal by a specific point when there is like there's no standard for a lot of things, right?
Well,
Unless what your goal is specifically based on like age, like for example, there's probably a really good cutoff age for joining the military, right? So if you're 30 and you say, I want to become a SEAL, you're gonna have a hard fucking time, buddy. You know? So it's like at that point, yeah, maybe, your goal should be reoriented to something else. But having goals as a man in general is going to give you purpose and give you a way to structure your life. Because, like, think about it, Josh. You have a goal for your body, right? And that motivates you every day, even though you're fucking tired after you go to work, but you still
Yeah.
go to the gym. That's a
Yeah.
goal. Right? You
well,
have a job and you have goals at your job and you have goals for that money for that you get from that job. All of that motivates you to go to that job every single day and work for it and go for it. Everything you do is oriented around goals and purpose. And so as a man, you have to have goals.
but I think not just having goals. I think we have to look at navigating goals, right? So you touched on one thing that in this Jim Rohn speech that I was talking about, um, he really emphasizes the why, and he was like, you just need a big enough why to attain these goals,
Yeah.
and besides that, it's like how I look at goals and what really helped me in my journey, right?
Mhm.
Is when I took this concept of basically like progressive resistance, right? Progressive challenge and applied it to goal setting because um, I had to basically start goal setting in order to get my life back on track because I couldn't remember shit, and it was
Yeah.
really difficult for me to do things because my brain would be overloaded or I would get dizzy quick as fuck, and like just all these different things that I was dealing with. Um, and so not only did I need a time limit to do something, which shout out to Olia, all right, she was one of the doctors that once my case closes, I'd like to have her on. But she was one of the concussion docs that I went to and a speech therapist. And she talked about making a list and then determining how much time it would take and
Mhm.
starting with easy things, you know, just so I could get my livelihood back, So it would be things like, all right, do my laundry. How long should it really take? You know, it really shouldn't take more than like, I don't know, 10 minutes to put the laundry in there. Like I give myself 10 minutes to do it,
Yeah.
and you just kind of build out whatever it is, your whole list of stuff. And that's a lot of
Well,
time.
I think that's a different scenario, right? Because you
Well,
were rebuilding your entire brain essentially.
but if you've never ever set goals, right?
Yeah.
And you're just told to set goals, you have an atrophied muscle, even though it's not like a physical muscle, right?
Okay.
And that atrophied muscle is confidence and trust in your own abilities. And so I look at it as like, all right, your list of goals, like you should have your big goals for your life, things you want to achieve, things you want to do, and those you can set within like 5 years,
Mhm.
10 years, right? Generally, 5 years is a really good one. Then you step it down to like 1 year goals, right? And then you step that down to like monthly, weekly, and daily,
Yeah.
you know? And on a very simple level, it's like if you just have some simple things like wake up, make your bed, brush your teeth, eat breakfast, go to the gym, right? Just those 5 things as your base level, right? Anything else you do after that, you can fuck around. If you haven't lived a super structured life, trying to enforce incredible amounts of structure is going to be impractical,
Yeah.
even though it really will work wonders if you're like disciplined enough to do it. But it's hard to see the rewards of simple things, you know? Um, and that's another thing that Jim Rohn was saying. He was saying a lot of people major on the minor things and minor on the major things in life. And the major things in life are fundamentals, you know? And if you go back to fundamentals of like taking care of yourself and building a life, you know, maybe you don't have everything in order, um, on that will get you in line to achieving these goals. But if you can kind of just dumb it down and be like, all right, I'm going to get my health together first. That way I have energy to do all these other things. Because if right now what I'm lacking is energy and confidence in my ability, if I look at this list and it's daunting to me, let me fill this list with things that are beneficial to me and pretty easy to do, you know? So you can have it like eat 3 meals a day, right? And you can have each meal be a box on that list, so you get the dopamine hit of checking it off and feeling good, you know?
Yeah.
And that list, once that becomes kind of normal to you, it's so easy that it's like that unfulfillingness will set in if you don't uh keep reaching, and you're going to go fuck it, why not? Cuz in the beginning it was hard, but some light switch will turn on along the way where you go, so what if it's hard? It benefits me,
Yeah.
and that's when your why is so big that you can't turn your back on the list.
There was well, one, I I've been doing like what you were saying in a sense without the list part where I have my baseline and I've been adding within like the last 3 weeks. I've been adding different things to my daily routine that have been making me feel better. So like for example, journaling and making sure that I clean something in my apartment once a day. Stretching at night, which I've done for a long time. Drinking tea before bed, like sleepy time tea type shit.
Mhm.
Um, and like adding different things that make me feel more achieved throughout the day. And so I've been doing that without the list. And but I do think like you're right in a sense is once you get to a point where what you're doing is now your baseline, you kind of do have to look at adding more things to what you're doing. Um,
Mhm.
Something that, like, in terms of what you were saying at the end there about the why, um, I seen this video today, and it said people change in 4 seasons, right? So there's different seasons as to like why people change. I forget the fourth one, but the three that I remember was people change when they've been hurt enough to where they realize, or they've experienced enough pain to where they want to change. Um, Number two is when they've seen enough to where they want to change. Number three is where they've learned enough to where they want to change. So, like for example, if someone were to watch this podcast and learn something about how we're talking about how we, function, about our goals and stuff like that, and they're like, "Whoa, I learned that, and that's actually inspiring me to change." That's where they've seen or learned enough to change. Or let's say someone's going through a mental health thing right now, and they realize that um, because of all the pain that they're having mentally, they've now realized how much they need to change. And so then they make those actual jumps to change their life. And so I
Hmm.
think like there's definitely like there's a benefit to having a why to the small things that you do, but what's really going to make you want to do things is those 3, I think.
Well, I think you're touching on something without touching on it, and that's that the why is something that people know a lot about. What deters them is the how. How is
Yeah.
it possible? What am I supposed to do? Right? And that's where goals come in, right?
Yeah.
And so, I was listening to a sermon, and it's super true that like God gives us a lot of information about the promise. You have this dream that comes to you, you have this vision, this imagination, right? And something just hits you, and you're like, "Ooh, I want to do that." And you can see yourself doing it, and you can feel yourself there. And then the how sets in, and you let the how talk you out of the why, you know? And if you have a plan, which is what you get by creating these goals, that's the stepping stones, where it's like you don't have to know every single turn that you need to make. It's like if we were outside trying to navigate through the wilderness, right? Well, maybe all I can see right now is there. I'm stuck in the forest, but I can see a mountain over there, right?
Mhm.
Well, I might not know where to go while I'm stuck in the forest, but if I can get up high on that mountain, I might be able to look around and see a better way that I can go, you know? And that's what
Yeah.
these goals do. They help you climb this mini mountain so then you can navigate and go, oh, that's where I'm supposed to go. And then you got to get off in the fucking weeds again, you know? And it's this continual process of that. And along the way, you happen to run into people that are walking a trail, you know? Some people's viewpoint is leading them to the place that you're coming from, you know? And you're
Yeah.
going the way that they were going. And they go, "Hey dude, you might want to go around this way cuz there's some fucking bullshit lake up there that you're going to have to swim through, and it's got a hell of a current, and it's going to be really hard." You know? So you might want to navigate around that stuff. There's going to be some people that you're going to pass that go, "Dude, it's not even fucking worth it. I almost fucking drowned. Just turn around. It's better going that way."
Seen some
Don't
big
let
ass
that
bear tracks up the way. You
Yeah,
might
don't let
wanna
that guy convince you out of it,
Yeah.
you know? This is about your why. No, I saw something over there. I know it's better over there. I've been there. I know there's not where I was trying to stay. I'm trying to get going over there. So, dude, I wish you luck. Thanks for, giving me someone to talk to, you know?
Yeah.
Whether they big you up or try and put you down, bro, thank you. All right. I'm going to go figure it out for myself, you know? And life, God has this funny way of like attracts like. And if while you're in that place where you feel lost, you can find it within yourself, that voice that everything's all right. And eventually you follow that voice long enough until it's like, you fucking got this. And then enough shit happens where you realize you went through the fucking mud pits. You thought that you were stuck, you couldn't get out, but lo and behold, you're still here. You know. And I was thinking about this, right? Um, the whole so what if it's hard, right?
Yeah.
It might be hard, but I'll tell you how easy it is. It's easy enough that you'll survive it. That's what you got to remember.
That's
When
fact.
it's hard, it's still easy enough for you to survive. You survive. Shout out to Steve Harvey. That's my guy. Okay. I listen to tons of motivational shit. He said, I'm going to give you a crazy statistic. You've survived 100% of every bad day that you've ever had. 100%. How the fuck can you not be confident? How can you not have faith? You made it through everything that you thought was absolutely unbearable. And that's where the switch flips, right? It's easy enough that you'll survive it. It might be hard, but it's easy enough that you'll get through it.
Fact. I think
You know?
I think people put a lot of stress on themselves to do things. And I think like when you like what you were saying about it might be hard, but it's easy enough for you to survive it. That's relieving some of the stress of it, right? And so like people always like for example with Josh's example of being a doctor when you're 30 or anything with a real time constraint like that, that's kind of tough. Is like you can put yourself you can really unmotivate yourself with hardcore stressing um like uh fucking forgot, holy shit, words just went out. But putting weird constraints on yourself to achieve a goal uh can really stress people out and make shit even more worse than it is, right? And so my whole fucking thought process got fucked up by trying to figure out that one word now. But but yeah, so I'm moving on.
Hey, dude, that's how it is. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Go
That
for it,
was
Ross.
fucked.
I see you grabbing the mic.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, man, water's refreshing. I was sitting here listening to y'all, and I drank half this bottle in one gulp.
I can dig it.
I can
I
dig
like
it. I
I
seen
like
this
me some
picture today.
H2O, man.
I seen this picture today that said drink water, get sunlight. You're an emotional plant.
Yo,
That's so
there's
funny.
facts to it. And when you think about us functioning on, electricity, electricity conducts itself best through water, go
Yo,
figure.
listen to this. This is about the kind of water I bought. It's purified water, purified by reverse osmosis.
Yeah. But
Osmosis of dopeness, baby.
it's the osmosis of dopeness. I'm gonna give you another dope fact about water that you probably didn't know.
Yeah.
When you get in the shower, the reason you feel more awakened, by that experience of water passing over you is that it excites the electrons in your skin. And
Mm.
so it's electrons on electrons, right? And so
Whoa.
when you get out of
Okay.
the water, you feel more awakened by the experience
Wow.
because it really discharged your body.
You guys want to hear a lot of fun facts about water? Like,
Sure.
I got some. Did you guys know they put a thing called phosphates in city water to make it better to drink? But these phosphates, if you are trying to have a swimming pool, phosphates eat at chemicals.
Hmm,
Yeah. And so that's
that's
how
interesting.
that's
Right.
because they put that in the water and it eats the chemicals, it like cleans it up. I don't know, it cleans the water. It's crazy. but it gets everything, man.
Maybe, yeah, maybe because pipes are kind of old and shit happens. You know what I mean?
No, they purposely put phosphates in your water. Like if you have city water,
But
they
that's what I'm
But
saying.
purposely
he's
do it.
saying,
Yeah.
like, yeah, maybe because pipes are old and the chemicals from the pipes and the rust
Oh,
and
I
shit.
gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, something like that, probably.
But that might be
Yeah,
why.
yeah.
But I don't know.
Here's more
All I know
interesting
is that
facts about water. If we're gonna get into water,
All
fucking
are you
right.
talking?
water helps you when you drink it, helps your energy levels, helps
Yeah,
your brain function, helps your skin health, and it helps lubricate your joints.
yeah, buddy.
So stay hydrated, my friends. Drink
Stay
up.
thirsty,
But
friends.
Man,
also remember
you said it
that you don't need to
lubricates
stress
joints.
yourself. Yes. But you don't you also need to remember you don't need to like drink an obscene amount of water because you get water from your food too. So it's not just like just
What?
water that you're drinking. You can get water from anything. Yeah, there's water in food.
Wow.
So like drink your water, but there's
Yeah.
water in food too. So you don't have to stress about as long as you're eating food,
Wow.
you can probably like you're still getting water.
That's
That's
cool.
why people are like, I haven't drank water in like 4 days. Well, it's like, but you're eating food, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. You're getting water. That's why you're not fucking dying of dehydration.
But I
Hmm.
think there's something to be said for um subpar levels, right? They're
For
surviving
sure.
and thriving,
Hmm.
right? And everybody's ecosystem in their body is somewhat different, right? But
Yeah.
they're still the same kind of fundamental elements that we need to run optimally,
Yeah.
and that's why I think starting with nutrition based goals is probably the easiest and most square one space for you to then begin to take on everything else in a more productive way. And I was reading a book that was talking about how sugar raises your adrenal function. And so processed sugars can cause you to have anxiety and anxiety driven disorders. And if you
Wow.
look at the way that our bodies are meant to like function, right? Most people live a far too sedentary lifestyle to accommodate that. You know, if you were exercising all the time, it's not so bad, right? If you just get done exercising, you can eat some snacks and it's good for you. But if you're, say, nervous already, right? You're stressed out about going to a meeting or something, and then you go for a snack or something. Hey, I need to pick me up. There's a high probability that it's sugar and possibly a processed, like grain. And a processed grain is going to be higher in sugar, and the way that it breaks down is going to cause your body to produce glucose and also adrenaline
Hmm.
to balance it. And so the diet is really like explained very well when you look at Eastern, philosophy and like Hindu stuff, right? When I was at the Hindu temple, they were talking to me, and a lot of the yogis explain it as the stomach is the root of your tree, you
Hmm.
know, and everything that comes out of your brain is the fruit of the tree, and so that has a lot that's being discovered and validated by modern science. When we look at chemical reactions, and not just every basically they go, yeah, yoga was telling us that like thousands and thousands of years ago, but it's fucking true, right? They might not have had the ability to prove it scientifically at that point on a chemical level, but nowadays, they're showing how the hormone production, the endocrine system, the way that everything in your body functions, is really governed predominantly off of the health of your gut biome, because it's also going to translate into your blood, right? And if everything's conscious and responding based on these things, right? Because we're a chemical factory, and you got to put in good things for you to get a good output, right? you can't just be pissing in your car's engine, you know what I mean, or putting
Yeah.
garbage in there and
Yeah,
expect to
no,
get
for
good
real.
stuff out.
It's well, yeah, like that's the whole idea of like you want to give yourself the best chance at succeeding as possible. So why wouldn't you give yourself the best fuel as possible, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like to go back onto what you were talking about in terms of like the anxiety stuff, where you get anxiety from processed sugars and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of that too, like a lot of the research about it, and I've had people tell me when I have anxiety not to drink coffee, but I'm like, in my head, that's what like makes me feel better
Mhm.
because caffeine usually creates anxiety for people, but for me, when I drink coffee, I actually get a far more alert to what like I can think so much clearer when I have
Mhm.
caffeine. And so what I actually end up doing, I actually haven't drank coffee in the morning
Mhm.
for the last week, almost like 5 days, something like that.
Mhm.
And what I've done is rather than drinking it in the morning, I'll drink it in like the afternoon when I get home from work or not work from the gym. So after I work out. And I actually have started feeling 10 times better. One, in waking up, like I can actually wake up a little bit better, it seems like. And my day actually starts a lot smoother. And I don't have crashes. When you like what I've also learned is just when you let yourself wake up before drinking coffee, let's say like 1 to 2 hours before drinking coffee, you actually do not have as much of a crash, if any at all.
Mhm.
Um, and so if you give yourself that time to wake up, one, I don't know what it's specifically called in your body, but once you wake up, you have a higher level of this. And when you drink coffee, it's like a suppressant to those and they don't actually reduce. And so what these
Mm.
things do is when they reduce, they actually allow you to stay when they're at a high level, they make you sleepy. When they're at a low level, they don't make you sleepy. And so when you drink caffeine right as you wake up, it's keeping them at a high level. So when your caffeine wears off, that's why you crash. And so when you give yourself the 1 to 2 hours to wake up and then you drink your coffee, you're giving those levels time to drop down and then bada bing.
Yeah, we'll have to look deeper into that because I'm interested into what those
Uh,
are.
yeah, Andrew Huberman talks about it a lot. So if you listen to any of his sleep podcasts, it'll probably come up in that.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you for
yeah.
that. And I think there's a couple things I want to say. First of all, what what touches your stomach first, the very first thing that touches your stomach plays a huge influence on the way your day is going to go.
I drink water.
About something.
Mhm.
You have a heavy influence on things by how you think about them and the expectation of the reaction from it, right?
Yeah,
And secondly, um, you know, not overdoing something, right? So looking at things from a investment or purpose driven perspective, um, and seeking how to make your interaction with this thing harmonious, and not imbalanced, right? And so, um, for me, like, I started to notice after becoming so light sensitive because of the like injury that I had and stuff. Um, every now and again, like, I'm if especially with like screens and light exposure and stuff, I can get like a headache coming on. But
yeah,
I've basically cut caffeine pretty much out of my life completely, right?
yeah,
Um, but I noticed that if I am starting to get a headache, caffeine is something that helps, you know, deter that from happening. And so, like, especially if I find, like, shout out to vitamin water. I found a vitamin water energy. So it has caffeine and, amino acids and, all that stuff in it.
yeah,
And because I hardly ever drink anything like that anymore, um, it just kicks into my body and works really, really well. gets a really quick response. Um, and so I think if you look at like caffeine and you go, all right, I really do enjoy coffee. I really
Mhm.
do enjoy this experience. And I want to get the most out of it. Well, maybe if I want to get the most out of it, I shouldn't interact with it every single day,
Yeah,
especially if
that's
I'm not
like
doing,
overtraining at the gym.
yeah, especially if I'm not able to do something to process it out. So like in terms of like overtraining, it might be a little different in that you need rest, but it's kind of the same thing, right? You need a
Yeah.
break from this.
The best way to the way to get the most benefits out of your exercise and strength training and weightlifting is to take a 1 or 2 days off a week,
Hmm.
right? Just for fatigue and shit like that. Um, I had something I was gonna say, but I completely forgot. Uh, I wish. Can you remind me about some of the stuff you just touched on? Because it'll come back to me. It was something. It was good.
I don't know. I was
Oh,
talking.
caffeine, caffeine. Um, what I want to like remind you guys of is drinking caffeine is a hunger suppressant. So if you want to eat, don't drink caffeine before you eat because you won't feel hungry.
Hmm.
Unless you have like a plan to like eat and drink the caffeine at the same time, uh don't do it. Because what you're gonna end up doing is, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the anxiety thing with the stomach. If you drink caffeine, you're not going to eat. And when you don't eat, that's actually going to cause you to have stress and anxiety. Because, like, I know when I don't eat, even if I've eaten breakfast, a couple hours later, I might start feeling a little bit more anxious than I would, like, right after a meal. And then I'll eat, and then my anxiety levels will just go right back down. I'm like, oh, I feel a lot better. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And I wish I knew why that was, but it feels great. Healthy stomachs. Just fucking eat good food, or as good as you
Well,
can.
I think also there's something to do with really keeping your blood healthy, you know? Because and promoting oxygen throughout your body and the flow,
Mhm.
right? I think that's part of why like chi is so fundamental, and learning really about breath work and how to send your awareness, send intention, and work with the energy system of your body as well as being aware of it. And they kind of go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Becoming hyper sensitive and more calibrated to your state of being, and how you feel and the energy that you're expelling around you, and how your energy waves kind of just like how your bubble feels, right? You ever have someone walk up on your bubble and you're like, you might not have saw him, you might not have heard him, but you just felt that motherfucker, you
Yeah.
know? And you're like, whoa, that dude is too close to me. And you're like, back up. It's that there's that disharmony. You feel it within your electromagnetic vibrations that are coming off of you, you know?
Mhm.
And becoming like a highly calibrated scale, becoming more sensitive is actually a superpower, you know? And it's weird because on the one hand, I think this kind of goes into like, um, I want to say like, and I would love to ask him someday, David Goggins, about, like when he's like, don't let that voice of your inner bitch like take
Yeah.
control. It's like this fine dance between like, all right, I'm sensitive enough to notice this shit, right? But I have to also be um strong enough in my discipline of how I identify myself and my self awareness that I don't allow this to change the end goal that's of me getting to that, you
Yeah,
know?
you don't want your monster that's controlling the inner bitch to change what your goals are.
Yeah, and it's like I have to be what I'm striving
Yeah.
to achieve
It's like
already.
balancing the light and the dark side. It's like you're the chosen one and you gotta balance this monster and this fucking inner bitch. And you're like, I want this to be a little bit more stronger in this situation, like when I'm at the gym. I wanna be able to do 10 extra pounds or whatever
Well,
the fuck.
it's almost like you have to accept that both exist, right?
Of course. That's what I'm saying. It's like
You-
that's how you
And,
balance it.
and so it's like I think the balancing act is like understanding there's moments where you are going to be this way, but not
Mhm.
accepting it as like who you are,
Yeah.
taking it as like a passing thought and being like nope, you know what I'm saying, and knowing that you're not a bitch for not like taking it on the chin, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's
There's
better for
also
me to
like
dodge
a
that, you know.
there's also like a level of self-preservation, right? Because like David Goggins runs super marathons, but if he was ever running to the point where he was about to die, he would stop.
Hmm.
Then that's not inner bitch. Everything has a level of self-preservation, and so like that whole like nope thing makes sense in essence if it's something that doesn't really serve you in a sense, right? Because like if you need to be a monster, like if you need to pull the monster out at the gym, you're gonna pull it out. But if at a certain time you need to pull out the inner bitch, there's no problem pulling that out if you need to, or
But
pulling out a more balanced version of yourself. That's
I think what
perfectly
makes
okay.
someone like a David Goggins or someone like, you know, um, honestly, like Dale Comstock is like the pinnacle of this shit, you know? Someone where it's like those dudes in Delta are like really at the pinnacle of this shit, where it's like the things that they've endured, it is your body telling you like you're gonna die from this. And your spirit says, no, I'm not, and just deciding against it. And it's not that your body isn't actually having real responses to these things. It's that things your body is actually like secondary to the control of your spirit, you know? And so it's staying in that place of your spirit governing your mind, you know?
Well, you can have a lot more control. Like if like your mind can have a lot more control over what your body does if you realize that a lot of things are mental, right? So like sometimes I'll test myself to see how long I can hold my breath. But when I start feeling like I want to take a breath, I'm like, nah, dude, just relax. You got this. Another 30 seconds. And if you are just able to calm yourself down, you can actually survive a lot. You can actually keep yourself in a mode where your body's not going into that I'm gonna die mode.
Hmm.
Like you're fighting it, but you're not letting it go into that mode. And so there's a difference between like I gotta stop because my heart's literally about to fail and I can't stop my heart failing, right? Or I can't stop my body actually just inhaling water because I'm underwater and I can't breathe anymore. Like I can't hold my breath any longer, just physically. Even if like to some extent, even if you have that mental willpower, you're not going to be able to hold your breath for 30 minutes. You're going to end up taking a breath in.
Well, I don't know,
So,
bro. There were yogis that were able to literally
yes,
like,
but that's like a lot of try like
Yeah,
practice.
training and
That's like they spent their whole life doing it. That's why they're called yogis, right? They spent a long time doing this. A lot of preparation. Like you don't become a Wim Hof who can dry
yeah, no,
a freezing blanket with his body temperature by controlling his body temperature
it's
in
nuts.
a week of mindful practice,
well, it
right?
might be lifetimes in the making.
Yeah. So, but it's like if we're talking about just like everyday things, practice with just like holding your breath because you can actually really see how like you can hold your breath longer than you think, but don't do it in a way that you might die. Just do it just sitting in your couch.
Don't do it in the shower either, because I had my homie tell me that he was doing that shit in the shower and he passed out in the shower.
Yeah,
Don't
don't do it
What?
in
don't
the
do
shower.
that.
When you have water hitting your face, you actually feel like you're drowning.
Huh.
Like, just in general. Like, I've tried to hold
Yo,
my
facts
breath in
though.
the shower before, and it's a lot harder because you feel like you're getting hit with it's weird. It's like waterboarding yourself almost. And so but without the washcloth. And so, like, don't do it in the shower. That's just dumb. Sit down in the shower maybe, but don't like have the water hitting your
Well, dude,
face.
he fucked around and found out,
He
but
did fuck
he
around.
made sure to tell the boys, He's like, "Hey, bro, don't do that shit in the shower, dog."
um, but yeah, like I I I think people have a lot like a higher capability of withstanding certain things if they were to be like to just calm themselves down. Just be mindful about what's going on. Calm yourself down even in like stressful, anxious situations, right? I have a lot of anxiety personally, and when I feel that, I get really uh focused on one my breathing, but also making sure that I know that I'm going to make it through,
Well,
right?
there's
Calming
something
yourself down is what's going to make you get through a lot of shit.
there's something special that happens when you realize, so what about death, right? Like there's very special moments in life,
Mhm.
um, and a special person that takes purpose above their own life, you know, to the point where they're like so what about death? That mentality kind of comes in.
Well, that's a stoic mentality too. Um so like for example, well, the way that it's explained from Meditations, right, by Marcus Aurelius, is you shouldn't worry about the things that you're worrying about. One, because soon you won't be here. Just like all the great philosophers and mathematicians before you, right? All of these great people are also not here anymore. And then the cycle will continue to repeat. A great man will die, and then another great man will replace him, and another great man will replace him. And so, like, to be okay with death and understand, like, everybody's time is finite. No matter what you achieve, no matter what you do, everyone is answering the call at some point. And so, it's a little comforting to be like, even stars die, dude. You know?
Yeah.
Like, the fucking sun is gonna die. Everything dies. It's just a matter of time, you know? Everything has its expiration date, and that's semi comforting, but at the same time I can see where if you think like that, someone who has anxiety might get more anxious or might have a crisis, like an existential crisis, like, holy shit, what the fuck? Everything's gonna die. What's the point? And then you become like one of those people, what I don't know what they're called, but a person who just like lives with no purpose and is just like, what's the point of doing anything if we're all just gonna
A
die?
nihilist.
Yes, those people. So
But
then someone with anxiety thinking about like, oh, everything like you don't have to worry because everything dies anyways. Then that anxious person can become a nihilist, and it's like that's a dangerous thing to play with. But try to accept it the best you can.
well, it's almost like we can die many times within our life. And at a certain point, you realize that like just existing um, doesn't equate to like truly living. You know, and like
Yeah.
then you're like, oh well, what if the fear would be like living an inauthentic life where you didn't give your all. So what if I only live 20 years giving my all versus 100 years of not. Man, all this was contained in that Jim Rohn fucking video too. Like, I gotta look this up. Hold on.
We're
just
not
so
gonna
I
play that. Let's not play that on the
no, no, no.
podcast.
Shut up, bro. I'm just all right. How to change your life or how to take charge of your life. Jim Rohn, personal development. YouTube that shit. It's him
Okay.
standing in front of a chalkboard in the thumbnail, and it's like a 2 hour long video. You should
Okay.
watch that shit
We can
because
link it.
it is so damn good, bro. It's so good. I've watched
Repeat the
it.
title.
Um, let's see. How to Take Charge of Your Life. Jim Rohn, Personal Development.
Got it.
Phenomenal video, bro. And it's super practical, but also like the way that he goes about explaining things and talking is like it's funny, you
Yeah.
know, and it's informative and it's thought provoking. And yeah, it's really, I don't know, it's made a huge impact on my life.
I respect it, bro. For real.
Literally, Tony Robbins came from Jim Rohn being his like mentor and watching and
Yeah.
following Jim Rohn.
I
Like,
think you told me about that before.
yeah. Um, but no, man, and I I'm not sure if you guys have much more you want to talk about this podcast, but I think we've definitely had a really good one.
I think
I
we
think this
hit
is good
every.
so far, bro. Unless Josh, you have something you want to talk about, get something off your chest.
Uh, it was
Now
I think.
I have a question then.
Okay.
Baby Hoodlum, are you just soaking up a lot of game and that's why you're like not talking as much? Not to put you on the
no,
spot, I'm
because
just
I got my game out, and now I gotta soak up some other people game.
That's what he's.
Yeah.
okay. I
you
got
an-
you. Yeah.
you answered a yes or no question with a no, and then you explained it with a yes, which is fucking amazing. It was, hey, dude, are you just soaking up game? That's why you're not talking. No, I explained my game, and now I'm soaking up game.
Dude, well, that's
I have it.
perfect. I think we can end it there. It was just a whole lot of game in this podcast, man. I actually am really proud of this one. Like super proud of this one. Well, you guys, thank you for anyone that's tuning in. Um, anyone else that catches it later on, thank you. And for you guys
Yeah.
just being here, man, I appreciate you guys. And I look forward to next week. Keep getting better.